All right. Hey, you're listening to Keyword Crypto. We're live. We're not actually live, but I've always wanted to say that at the beginning of the show.
I'm alive.
Yeah, I mean,
Joshua is alive. Today we have the long-awaited guest, Joshua Davis, who goes by @Karbonbased on Twitter.
Hello.
How are you doing, Joshua?
I'm good. Really good.
Well, that's good.
How are you?
It's been a couple weeks since we tried to set up a show with you.
Yeah, this is a long-anticipated podcast. There were some technical difficulties and then some scheduling problems.
And on our show, we call ourselves skeptics. We call ourselves crypto skeptics. But for our listeners that don't know you, I would say you're not just a skeptic, but you're somebody who
Evangelist.
You're an anti-evangelist, or
he's an evangelist for skepticism, I would say.
I think that might be giving me a little too much credit. I would say that I'm a shit poster. I'm a skeptic in a different way, in that I'm not going to say everything's going to go to zero. That's not what I'm about. I'm not about making price predictions. I'm not about any of that. What I think is important is exercising caution and looking at different sides. I'm completely okay with being wrong. I'm skeptical in this point in the market cycle, and that's also more of a recent past couple of years than I would have been before, and I think that has to do with market maturity. But I am a little more than a skeptic in that I hope, I hope that there's some people who have found my feed and maybe call them noobs, right? Crypto noobs, who come online and find all the large accounts that are out there and are very boisterous and heavily circulated, and maybe find my account and maybe question just, taking the bait on everything that's being fed to them. I would hope so. That would be great.
Was that how you got into crypto Twitter? Was just kind of like you wanted to be a voice of caution?
Yeah, I kind of got it.
Or did that come from like getting liquidated on Big Macs or something?
No, it didn't. It didn't come from.
Were you ever an investor? Yeah.
I was. That's definitely covered at the beginning of every other podcast I've ever been in. I was since 2011, and I didn't get.
Are you now?
I have some small holdings now. Nothing significant. And I didn't get involved with crypto Twitter until 2017. And I didn't say, I remember thinking $20 was crazy. I was like, this is out of control. I can't believe this. But I still was like, okay, it's all really early here. 10,000 was kind of the point where I was like, all right, we're just starting a suckers rally. This is insane. And that's probably when I got involved on crypto Twitter as a skeptic, was right around then. The first time it hit 10,000 in 2017.
2011 is really early. I mean, it was probably hard to buy Bitcoin. It's probably really hard to buy Bitcoin at that time.
Yes.
So, okay. Most people that I know who owned Bitcoin that early, they sold like first or second pump, really.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. Everyone's like, oh, if you once in a lifetime opportunity to have bought, and I was buying and selling up many times, right? But
so you were a trade.
I never traded and I never shorted.
Okay, I didn't know if there were ways to short it back then. But
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never
Okay,
bought anything above the recent lows. Always below that.
so here's
That's pretty
something.
good.
So you say you hope that noobs will find your account and maybe start to question their investment or their crazy views on where crypto is going. But the issue I have is that if you go to like, your website,
Which is a
defundcrypto.com,
joke. It's a parody
it's
website.
a total joke. It's a crazy satire that looks like it was made in like 1998 or something. I mean, in a great way, in a way that makes me feel like I'm reliving my childhood. But it does make
8-bit
me
skepticism.
it makes me feel like it's a joke. It's a satire. And at that point, it makes it hard for me to take you seriously.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
As
Defund crypto was a response to the defend crypto campaign after Kick came under scrutiny earlier this year. And I did that parody website. I put that whole thing together. Cass Fiance, who you've had on this podcast, as well as Kyle, helped contribute some of the copy that day. And yeah, Kyle sent me, I was like requesting graphics from him in a text at the time. But I put the whole site together in the course of like one night having whiskeys. And it is a joke. And it's intended to be a joke and it's intended to be fun. But it will also soon get cycled out for something else. So TBD.
so
From a crypto standpoint, what's your concern with the Bitcoin market right now? Like, because like I have my concerns about future pumps and the possibility of it with Wall Street being so heavily invested and feeling that it may never get above where it is. It may never reach a new all time high.
Sure.
So
It may
what's
never reach
like?
another all-time high. It may reach another all-time high. I think there's I know this isn't going to sound bearish enough for you guys. I think there's a strong possibility that it will reach a new all-time high, but it's not going to be what people are telling them. It's not going to be this 100,000 or this 1 million.
I think it will actually.
I don't
I
that I think's a little too far. The next like all-time high to me would be like some crazy fake out. It goes to like 28 and a half. And
yeah,
like
that's
shakes
possible.
everyone out, right? But gets everyone to buy in, but doesn't get high enough to start hitting everyone's optimistic sell targets. And I think that's another possibility. Like we're up against the law of large numbers here.
I want to say something about this show because I feel like we're going to get some new listeners from your followers, and I want to make something clear that despite our sort of branding and our logo, and we've got this crazy bear eating this guy's face off, and we call ourselves crypto skeptics, we're actually not bearish on crypto and Bitcoin. We have our concerns about Bitcoin, but we actually think as an investment, it's going to be worth a lot of money. And we are also actually really interested to see what happens to the altcoin cycles as well. That's kind of where we are, but we feel like it's our responsibility to ask these questions and do this on our show. And the more we look into it, the more we find things that you talk about all the time, Joshua, the things that you bring up. And I just wanted to make that clear. Like we're not just out there to get attention by saying, we hate
It's
Bitcoin.
all going to go to zero.
You guys are idiots for putting your money in this. No, we have our
I
money.
really
in this.
just came on the podcast to accuse you guys of shorting the bottom. That's why I'm here. Aggressively.
You're like, I'm going to call you fuckers
totally.
out.
Master plan.
Well, I want
No, but it is no. So I mean, that's why I wanted to ask your opinion because
I don't like making.
I'm invested in crypto. But I'm also highly skeptical of Bitcoin right now, just because not from a usability standpoint, because it's more or less unusable as a peer-to-peer currency for fast transactions. But like, I do think if you're getting into Bitcoin solely for speculation, I think that it's at a point right now where it's just so heavily manipulated by whales and by the banks at this point that I'm worried that people are putting their money in expecting some kind of return, and there's a chance it may never get there. So I know JJ thinks it will. I'm on the fence. I'm literally just on the fence because I feel like at this point, I don't know if it's like kind of like with gold. I don't think gold will ever hit $2,000 because I don't think Wall Street would ever let it. They would just keep manipulating it, up and down $1,000, up and down, and like, why let it get to $10,000? Because at that point, it's just a lot harder to control.
Sure. So there's a couple things there. I don't know if it's going to hit a new all-time high. It very well might. As you said, it's a manipulated market. But the main thing is that people are free to believe whatever they want to believe, but they shouldn't be investing more than they can afford to lose. As you said, it's right now it is about speculation. So, and this is something I think I wanted to talk about. JJ, you said, you saw my tweet earlier. I was saying people leave out the human element. So everyone's been touting this big stock to flow ratio, right? No, it's a halving. It's stock to flow. It's like, cool.
Which they don't even really know what that means.
Anyway,
most of the time.
the halvening, like none of this means shit unless you get enough new people to speculate on it. The use cases aren't good, and Lightning definitely doesn't look like a solution to that problem. It doesn't look like a viable, good solution to that problem. And most of the people speculating have no interest in spending their cryptocurrency anyway. So if they're not building a better mousetrap for payments, then the narratives become this speculative store of value. And as a very new asset that doesn't have a long history as a store of value, that's difficult for a lot of people to wrap their head around. So what's it going to take? A manipulated suckers rally to see how many new feet you can get in the door, and then how high can you push it with that, with people pulling out, with whales pulling out? So I think there is a challenge there, and I think you can draw your little stock to flow charts. You can compare the previous halvenings, which I don't believe were the cause of the following price appreciations. I think it's a case of just correlation. And not causation. But none of that means much if new money doesn't flow in.
Right. So, okay. So Michael's question for you was, what are some specific things that you've got specific things about these crypto markets that give you your opinions? And you mentioned, well, it's not very good at payments. Lightning isn't going to solve that, which is something that we talk about on this show. Lightning and Liquid are really kind of flawed, and it's going to be either a store of value or a speculation thing that's totally manipulated. And right, that's basically it.
That's basically it. I think it has a. Honestly, I think speculation and evangelism in this store of value narrative is, to me, a more compelling bull argument than like stock to flow and the halving,
What about places like Hong Kong and Chile and Venezuela and Zimbabwe that are going to need like financial backdoors?
This does fuck all for them. They want cash. They want US dollars. They want money that they can use as money easily without relying on electricity or internet. This does fuck all to solve those problems.
And that requires the US dollar to always work as advertised.
Correct.
As well.
Although you would assume that, if it becomes the yen or the euro, whatever becomes a standard of global accepted currency, that just sub that in. They still want cash.
So, I mean, do you think that eventually? Okay, so I mean, that's great. I think at a certain point, unless we just keep pumping out money and sending it overseas, and actual dollars, like printing dollars and sending them overseas, eventually it's going to get to a point where, unless we completely take over a country's monetary system with the U.S. dollar, then it's and we print enough for that, and we get something in return for it, then I don't foresee that ever being I don't see it being a long-term viable option, because dollars, they don't depreciate. I mean, they don't depreciate, but they start to fall apart, like physically. So you have to keep on pumping out dollars into those areas. So eventually we're going to get to a point where people are going to start saying, hey, why are we doing this? The US is almost 100% digital. So why are we worrying about it digitally? Like, why are we worrying about physical dollars when we can just use our phones? Because pretty much everybody has a smartphone now in those countries.
Well, first off, you're making it sound like this is some formal arrangement where, we actually airdrop them physical dollars or something. No, there's a demand in all these countries for dollars, and there's dollars already circulating and people bringing dollars in and getting rid of their assets there in exchange for dollar. There's a market, right? And it's an informal market. Yeah. It's not like we're trying to supplement or subplant their currency for ours. It's not formal. So that demand is very natural, and that's because of the dollar's view as a stable currency and as a good medium of exchange, right? And we've seen in Venezuela, we've seen blackouts, we've seen internet outages. So these intrinsically reveal flaws in, sure, of course, yeah, most of these people have a cell phone now, right? We live, the age we live in. Absolutely. But most of them don't have like their own mesh network, or, there's no way for them to transact if key infrastructure falls apart. Cash, physical cash, is the answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think a lot of these countries are working a lot more towards being able to survive off the grid for a few hours, because these brownouts are starting to happen. So people are starting to turn to, how do we rig up electricity for 30 minutes or 45 minutes? Or, I mean, I get from a short term standpoint, I 100% agree with you. From a long term standpoint, it just doesn't seem feasible that these people are going to allow themselves to have their economies affected by rolling brownouts. Yeah. Like there's no society in the history of the planet that stood still. They all evolved.
I don't think, it seems like the market for dollars would just make dollars more valuable in these places, and then people wouldn't spend them. They just turn into
no. They don't become hodlers.
But well, no. I mean, like, if there's a market and they're hard to get, and because we don't airdrop dollars to countries that need them, that means there's a market for them, and they are hard to get. I went to Moscow once, and we had to pay bribes at the airport, and we had to pay in dollars. And in fact, we didn't have dollars because we were traveling through Europe. So the weird thing is when they gave us receipts for the bribes, the receipts had to say dollars on them because they had to show that they were paid in dollars. So there's these underground markets where dollars are actually more valuable than what they're worth in other currencies.
Sure. I mean, that's
just how stuff comes. That's how things work. I
mean,
out.
Yeah.
And as the demand grows, wouldn't they become worth
That's just
more?
Exploiting exchange rates, and you see that just even as a normal tourist, right? Different areas command different exchange rates, and your dollar goes further or shorter.
Sure, and like the airport's going to charge you a higher rate than you would somewhere else because you have a direct need right now to get some dollars, and there right there, and you're like, hey, you can pay 20% here, or you can pay 5% somewhere
Exactly.
else.
So I think a locality
So-
assigning a dollar a higher value doesn't necessarily mean they're going to hoard those dollars.
But at what point does a society say, fuck this, we don't want to be reliant on a foreign country's currency to make our economy run? We want something that's completely international and not controlled by one group of people. I mean, which is in essence was the idea behind Bitcoin. Is like, so like, if our economy collapsed and we were reliant on the Chinese yuan, I'd be like, fuck that. I don't want to be reliant on a communist country, manipulating its currency and deciding how much bread I can buy this week because I'm not sure what their currency is doing. Like, at a certain point, free people don't want to be reliant on foreign countries. They want their country to work properly.
Sure. And I think that comes down to building a better mousetrap. Bitcoin doesn't work well as a payment method. It also, and I don't give a shit what fork you look at either, or what shitcoin. All of it's pretty crap UX, UI. It's not a pleasant experience, especially when you compare to like the traditional banking services and those kind of apps and products here in the States. Bitcoin doesn't.
I disagree with Nano because the new Nano apps.
I knew that was coming.
Chill for a second. Well, I mean, come on.
I was on
PayPal on my iOS. No, so I was on my PayPal iOS app and I was looking for a transaction, and it took me about a minute and a half to find the button to press to get to my transactions. Like it wasn't easy.
Wait, wait, say that again.
Okay, so somebody sent me some money through PayPal a few weeks ago, and I needed to find the exact date. And so I was on my PayPal iOS app, and it took me about a minute to figure out where the transactions were. Because I kept on clicking on it, and it would show me my balance. And I was like, okay, where's the button to show me the transactions? And I had to go through like 3 different submenus to get there. And I was like, why is this so fucking difficult? It's 2019, and it's like PayPal is one of the biggest mediums of exchange or apps for mediums for peer-to-peer currency out there. And then I go to my Nano app. I use Natrium, and it's 2 buttons: send, receive, and it shows your balance. And you just scroll up, and it shows your balance and transaction history.
And it's so fast.
And so it's like, and that
it's so fast.
Say it again?
Too. I just know that from the guys that always reply to me about. Yeah, they're always like, oh, it's so fast with Nano. I'm like, I've never looked into your fucking shitcoin.
Well, it is fast.
It is. I mean, look. So Stellar's fast, XRP's fast, Tron's fast, Nano's the fastest.
Yeah,
that I'm aware of. There's a lot of these better mousetraps exist, but I'll be the first one to say I don't think a fixed supply of any cryptocurrency is the answer to a true peer-to-peer worldwide currency. Because I think that any kind of fixed supply is going to lead to hodling.
And when it comes to hodling, you said that people would never become a hodler of dollars. I have a friend in Chile who said he's going to take all his money out of the bank and buy food. He's going to hodl.
Yeah, that makes sense to me
because he thinks it's going to. He's not looking for U.S. dollars. He's looking for food because he thinks that's going to be the thing that's going to be hard to get. And he's probably right. But yeah, like what Michael is saying, I mean, I don't know. Like right now, Joshua, you say right now it's a UX nightmare. It's a UI nightmare, and it is, but it's not always going to be that way. At a certain point, if it works right now, then the UX is probably just the next thing that's coming. That's with all technology.
Sure.
I mean, I hate to be one of these guys that you deal with on the internet, but the internet sucked at the beginning too. And
Agreed.
I mean, but like,
Still kind of does.
but now at least it's usable. We're using it right now.
Agreed. The
Yeah.
internet had a
Yeah.
lot of growing pains. I hate the internet to crypto comparison, by the way. I
know you do.
detest it. And one of the reasons is there was like nothing about it that rewarded early users of the internet over later ones. If anything, us early users of the internet just suffered more. Spent time staring at a screen waiting for an image to load.
Well, early users of crypto suffered too. I mean,
but I'm saying there's no
because they're
it's not like if you buy AOL early in the 90s, then you're good. You make money off of it. No, it became like more affordable, faster, better. It didn't become more expensive to get less in return. So there's just not a great comparison when you're talking about a utilitarian information dissemination system that connects the world globally. And I get that the cryptocurrency connects the world globally too, in its way. I totally get that. But due to the large price appreciations from early adopters to current, and as well as large price fluctuations, it's a completely different beast. I'm not gonna sign up for an internet package today, and my bandwidth is down 30% next week. That's not happening. However, with cryptocurrency, that's a high possibility.
Yeah, but I think cryptocurrency is a hybrid of investment and infrastructure in a really weird way, because a lot of these, in most, maybe not most, but a lot of cryptocurrencies outside of Bitcoin, and even Bitcoin itself, is the people who are making the network run are usually the people who are investing in it. And the people transacting on it, if somebody sends me 1/10 of a Bitcoin, and then I turn around and pay somebody else with it, and I'm not keeping any of it, at the end of the day, like, I'm using it like I am the internet. And the people who are profiting off of it are the ones who are actually running it, are the ones who are keeping the infrastructure solid, who are keeping the security in place, or the people like on Stellar, or if Ethereum 2.0 actually works, people who are staking it to keep the infrastructure, to keep the supply, the currency itself, safe. So I mean, I think people who are involved in it now, who are actually like hodling and working on it, I think of them as the early adopters of the internet, who were helping invest in the internet to build up the infrastructure. And the people who are just doing the day-to-day trading are kind of like penny stock people who are like, I got $10, I'm going to put it in Google and walk away and never think about it ever again. And then like, maybe Google will take off, maybe it won't. And like,
there were a lot of internet bulls too back in the 90s. God, there were like, to become an investment banker in the 90s, that was like, they were the same bros that are the day traders on Twitter these days.
Yeah.
The way I see it, the same assholes. I don't know. I think that parallel is pretty relevant, but
it's trite, it's overplayed, and it's also fundamentally flawed, and it's incredibly stupid because it doesn't.
Hear that, JJ?
I'm saying
You're stupid.
It doesn't. You can join in on the internet at any time, and you have more at your fingertips than if you had joined earlier. There's not the same kind of economic incentive model, and I get that you're saying, oh, but this isn't about the users, this is about the builders, right? But
no, I'm saying it's about both. You can't have one without the other. If no one's using it, then no one's going to keep building it.
The crypto industry, from every aspect down to the users, is about speculation at this point. So to continue to make the argument that it's in some way similar to the early internet at this point is just crazy to me. Sorry.
See, I disagree because I think people who were doing online businesses early were complete speculators. There was not enough traffic for them to survive fundamentally, like run a business off the internet, but they still built it out and tried to invest in the future because they had a vision that that's where economy was going to go to. And the ones who invested early and learned how to do it and started building some kind of infrastructure for themselves, whether it be coding or whether it be designing their entire business around an online only space, I think those are the people who are profiting today. And that's why I think it's similar to the internet, because back then nobody was doing that. I mean you could not get a mom and pop shop to sell on the internet, and if you did, it was a completely different space, and you couldn't return
Yes.
something you bought online to the store that you bought it to, the store that owned the online site. They wouldn't let you return it just because like nothing was integrated, and it was a real
Yes.
fucking pain in the ass. But now it's just commonplace, like everybody expects it. And I honestly think that cryptocurrency could be that way in the future, where the people who are investing now in trying to build dApps or trying to do this or trying to do that, 20 years from now, they're going to be the ones that people look to as, the early internet pioneers or the early whatever pioneers. Just because I feel like you have to have somebody who is willing to take a risk and invest money.
Well, we're 10 years in, so I look forward to hearing about how early internet we are in another 10 years when it's still all about speculation.
Well, I mean, the internet came out, what, in the 50s?
No,
in the
no.
60s?
But technology moves faster, and we've seen that progressively. But this, okay.
I'll agree with
technology,
you.
Technology
It's
moves
a good
increasingly
debate.
faster, and we see this between radio and television and internet and Facebook. There's a chart online about length of time to reach 1 billion users. And this adoption rate happens much faster over time. We're not seeing that same thing with crypto. What we're seeing is an extended period of speculation with so far intermittent bursts of retail interest, retail increased interest, which is a bullish indicator, but that definitely the comparison's not fair, because the adoption rate that we've seen in 10 years from where the internet was already developed when Bitcoin was introduced to where we are today, where it's a fucking household name and it's still not there. It's just not a fair comparison given this day and age. And by just pushing back further into the 50s or whatever to ARPANET, that doesn't do it for me personally.
Yeah, I'm confused. What do you mean by the time to 1 billion? Because if you start off with ARPANET, or if you even start off with just the first web browser,
there's an increasing rate that new technology
you didn't have to actually
new
code
technology
yourself.
that takes off, that reaches a threshold of users at greater rates over time.
So I think the comparison most people are trying to make is that nobody understands how TCP/IP works. It's just there in the background. And so if cryptocurrency, if blockchain, if this or that, if that kind of becomes like the new, whatever in the background, people don't even realize they're using it. You think that's, that hasn't even, like, people have just been starting to think about how to in those terms for like the last.
I think it's a casino coin, and I don't think that makes it a better store of value. And I think that applies to all of these things. So you can.
I'll agree with you on that.
So let's assume you improve the UX and the experience is seamless. People still, I don't think, are gonna. If what are we talking about? Adoption for payments or just more speculators? If we're talking about adoption for payments, I don't see that happening when it's subject to large price swings.
I think we're the only reason I'm pushing back is because I think we're in a completely different
Probably.
headspace at this point. Because right now we're working with a new technology that the way to fund these technologies is to speculate on their coin, and they get the money, and then they can start building out infrastructure and building out things and working with IBM or working with the banks or working with McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever, and figuring out not just because I think payment platforms were, I think it's kind of an archaic view because that's what Bitcoin was intended to be. And so people were like, oh, well, we're just going to be a faster version of Bitcoin. And then people realize like that my thing with Nano is like, okay, great, it's fucking lightning fast. And so if I want to send you, Joshua, $10 worth of Nano, it's going to take less than a second every single time. And it's going to work every single time. But at that point, it's just like, okay, I can do that with PayPal. And I think people are realizing, oh shit, I can actually, I don't know if you know about Elixir. It's ELIXXIR. And they're like kind of like a beta net thing. And it's one of the guys who helped invent the internet, more or less, and invented or helped invent cryptocurrency, not crypto, but cryptography. Blanking on his name, like Chom or something like that. And they're doing actual instant messaging, but it's completely encrypted, and it's and so you're using this data in a new way. And I feel like 20 years ago, people were using the internet to message each other and to send information back and forth. It was an electronic post office. And it takes an entire generation who grows up on that to then think of it in a completely different, like in a new paradigm. Like how can I use this technology different? When those of us who grew up with just learning how to use internet, in our teens or 20s or whatever, we're not. I mean, most people aren't thinking of it in new terms, like in a new exciting technology. Whereas people who grow up at 3 years old using an iPad, they're going to get a genius idea that's going to push it to a new level. So I feel like cryptocurrency hasn't been around long, cryptocurrency hasn't been around long enough for that to even exist yet. For people to start really thinking about like paradigm shifts using the technology, because the technology is so nascent.
I thought you guys said you were skeptics. Like 41. We're like 41 minutes deep, and I'm like,
money, about investment.
Okay, so which Nano wallet am I supposed to download now, dude?
Well, here's the thing. So, like, I think the thing is that like this is why we're skeptics, we're critics. We want to have these arguments. I think, Joshua, that you make a really you make a really strong case. Like the way, especially when you talk about how technology it changes faster now. It should be, cryptocurrency should be much more adopted if it's supposed to be something that we're going to use in the future. Personally, I love hearing you talk about this stuff. I like it a lot more than hearing you like make fun of Peter McCormick's haircuts or whatever on Twitter. Like, I wish that I got more information from you, because you make some really strong arguments.
I don't want to shit on Michael too hard, but that's just like a classic moving the goalpost. It's like, oh no, it was gonna be a payment system. Now it's gonna be like an entire protocol layer with all this crap on top of it. And it's like, okay, so do you think you're building better mousetraps with all that crap on top? Because everything I've seen is just regurgitated normal internet shit I've already seen, or normal banking schemes I've already seen, but on the blockchain. And I think it's
okay. So we've had Bitcoin. We've had Bitcoin for 11 years now. So in 11 years, we went from something that worked well because there wasn't that much usage. So Bitcoin relatively worked, sending money back and forth back then, because no one was using it. And so you didn't have these overloads of the system. And in 11 years, you went to Nano, which is a completely redesigned structure. It's a completely revamped proof of work, a completely different system of chains, and it's not one single chain. It's everyone has their own chain, and so one guy just envisioned this new way. So in 11 years, we've gone from something that doesn't work for the masses to something that works every single time instantaneously for the masses. So in my mind, that's a pretty good. And he didn't do a different type of blockchain. He invented an entire different system of how it works, and it is decentralized, and it is, you can have, I mean, at this point you're only getting like a couple thousand transactions per second, but that's still pretty damn good for something that's completely decentralized compared to a bank or a Visa card, and that's just in 11 years. So it's, I mean, that's why I'm pushing back on you on the technology side. Look, when it comes to the financial investment, I agree with you 100%. I think it's all. I think that's what we're skeptical about. Like, I think people are just kind of throwing their money at something, hoping to get it back. They're all going to get liquidated.
Correct.
Everyone's going to lose their money.
Sure,
That's what I think.
they
But
might not
when
though.
it comes to technology,
Like,
I
it
feel
might
like
go
it is
up.
moving rapidly.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh my
be
God, you're not a
nice.
skeptic anymore.
I know.
We've turned Carbonbased into a bull.
I love
No,
that
I'm-
you're trying to convince me about price,
What I'm
and
what
I'm
I'm
trying to convince you about
is
technology.
that you don't know that it's not going to pump any more than I know it's not going to pump any more than the fucking guys pumping out hopium ad nauseum know that it's going to pump. Anyone telling you that they know what's going to happen with the price
Yeah.
speculation side of this is complete crap. And that's also where part of my detest for the early internet argument comes from, where it's like, okay, so then you've got like all these .coms that failed, but it's like, you think you're holding the Amazon and not the pets.com with your Nano? I don't fucking, I don't care. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Of course, everyone,
absolutely.
and I have a,
Yeah.
I would say that I would say I'm fortunate to have followers and mutuals from all different camps, and all different coins. And I can tell you right now that they're all convinced that they're on the correct chain, that they all have the Amazon, and none of them have the pets.com. And there's no
Yeah.
way you're all right. There's no fucking way.
No, it's true. I mean, that's the reason I don't think Nano will probably exist in 10 years. I think technology-wise, it's the best out there right now. But like I said, I don't think a fixed supply coin is going to be used as a peer-to-peer currency. I just don't like.
So what's
economics
your
tells us
bullishness
it's
on
not
it?
going to
What are
work.
you're just thinking on like price appreciation short to midterm right now?
Oh no, not even that. Not even that. Literally, just the
You just
technology.
got a hard on for the
I think
technology.
the person who takes that technology, yeah, because I think that technology achieves the dream
So then,
that
do you
Satoshi
use
envisioned.
it? Do you use Nano? Because you've right? No shit.
no.
Fucking
All
because it has no
speculation.
utility.
Yes. It has absolute
No,
utility, but because
It
they
has-
created a fixed supply,
has
I
shit
don't think it's
utility.
going to have utility. It's only because it's a fixed supply. If it was inflationary and it was a stable price every
No,
single time,
your
I would switch
utility-
over to it tomorrow. If I
your-
didn't have
your-
to worry about
Your
fluctuations,
utility is
I would use it tomorrow.
100% limited by the number of parties that you're able to send it to, without a doubt. So if you went on,
That's true.
if you went,
yeah, but isn't that just everything?
That's everything.
so if you went on Twitter tomorrow and your goal was I'm going to use my nanotechnology, and you tried to do a nano giveaway, let's just say, and if you do, I'm gonna make fun of it. 100.
All right.
Hold on.
Do it just to fuck with you.
Free publicity for keyword
$100
crypto.
giveaway,
Yeah.
and you did the same thing with a Cash App giveaway. What do you think is going to get circulated more? So that right there shows you the limited utility of the coin with like this super promising technology that you're claiming.
Yeah, but it's not even technically
Okay.
out of beta yet.
Then why are we talking about it?
They haven't even launched. They haven't, because we're talking about technology growth, and you're saying it's not happening fast, and I'm saying it is happening fast. It's happening rapidly. So right now, if we take the one idea that was envisioned with Bitcoin, and what was it supposed to be? A person-to-person currency, a P2P currency, right? And then everyone's like, oh shit, it sucks. Like, $50 transaction fees. This thing's a piece of shit. And so somebody 2.5 years ago says, oh shit, I have a better idea that can fix all those problems. And within a 3-year period, create something that actually works and solves that problem.
Solves what problem?
I think that's pretty
problem
fast.
That, like, Cash App and Venmo already solved.
Exactly. Well, because I can't right now Cash App somebody in Zimbabwe.
And you probably can't Nano someone there either because they don't fucking know what the hell Nano is.
Oh, it's all over the world right now. Yeah, they've got people all over the world.
But it's still in beta, so let's not judge it. Yeah.
It just doesn't have. It just doesn't
but
have
it's
the
still
adoption.
In beta, so let's not judge
Say it again.
I'm sorry. I have such a fucking. I've dealt with so many Nano reply guys.
I can't believe we made this episode about Nano. This is insane.
I know, this is so funny.
Let's get back to making fun of Peter McCormick's haircuts. Because
I'm not even going to retweet this. I'm just going to like quote tweet it with like, if you want to hear the boringest podcast about Nano I've been on yet, this is fucking it right here.
The funny thing is like I'm always like, can somebody come on the podcast from Nano because we have no idea what the fuck we're talking about and teach us about it. So
Michael,
I'm literally just talking about it from a person who has actually transacted with it before a couple times. That's literally it. Like, and I'm not saying like, and I keep on telling you, man, I think it's going to go to zero. I think Nano is going to fall apart because I think fixed supply cryptocurrencies are all going to eventually go to zero. I just think that it's all speculation and they're shooting themselves in the foot by having a fixed supply because as one of our guests said, good money pushes out bad money. And anything with a fixed supply is bad money because it encourages hodling and speculation. And I think it's going to go to zero. But I'm a fan of technology and I'm a fan of growth. And so okay, let's chain this back to you because I don't want it to just be like you and me.
Yeah, let the record show again that I'm JJ and I'm not the one talking about Nano on this podcast.
Just one quick question though.
Okay, so
is Nano fast?
Yeah.
Fuck you. So
let's
talk about that.
What's a perfect world for you? Like what would you want cryptocurrency to become?
Yeah, because you seem to be getting a lot of attention for just what some people would call trolling.
What would I want it
crypto.
to become? I actually that's really that's a fun question. I think at this point the best thing might be for the network to be smaller, networks to be smaller, and for it to actually shake out the people that are just there to get rich quick, and for people that actually want to support and develop the network and think differently about how to approach problems so that it actually can be used more effectively. Because some of the things I harp on could be solved if some of these chains were more inventive or more willing to make changes or take risks. And I'm not going to get into specifics on that because we'll talk too long about it. But I'm fine with people doing whatever they want. Like, I'm fine with everyone thinking they're going to get rich quick, and I'm fine if they do. But I think everyone should be skeptical of anyone who's telling you that they know for certain the answer. And I think I have mutuals that are super bullish on things that I'm very bearish on. But whatever, I read what they say,
You're deflecting back to your original argument. Like I want to know what you're positive
about long term.
Yeah, like your dreams. Come on, I want to hear your dreams and your hopes. Come on, man. Let's take a long walk on the beach and like really dig into it.
what is Karbonbased want most?
Yeah. No, because you just said smaller chains, smaller ecosystems. And my response to that was, well,
The
how do you
network
pay for that?
adjusts. That's part of chain economics.
No. Like, how do you actually get people to work on it to
The same way you did in
make
the early days, through
infrastructure actually
community.
run?
You could argue that the few people that
Okay.
aren't speculators in this space are hobbyists, and that's a Venn diagram, and they overlap pretty considerably.
But aren't most of those people like already rich or wealthy,
Yeah.
or and then that kind of,
What would I?
so you'd be cool with kind of like rich people kind of running all the networks?
I didn't say that.
Well, because that's if like that's I said, like how do you pay for all this stuff?
Pay
to
for
actually
what part?
run? And you
For
said
pay
the
for
hobbyists. Well, the only
development?
people who can do it for a hobby.
That's been mostly voluntary.
Yeah, development,
on
coding.
the Bitcoin chain, that's been mostly voluntary. There was a lot of people that were volunteering on other chains and forks. There's a lot of people that are in, like you are so gung-ho about your Nano. There's a lot of people that are enthusiastic on the tech on whichever chain they're attached to, and they're willing to do that work and put in that time because they are passionate about it. And that's something I respect about across all the crypto communities, is the people that do devote their time to trying to do interesting things or solve problems, even if they are novelty. At least they're spending their time, thinking and working on something they're passionate about, and that's a good thing.
Well, I disagree, because that's what I meant. It's like the people who can afford to do that
They're
are
not
usually
rich.
coming from
No.
places of wealth, and they're not usually able to connect with the people who actually need the technology, and they're not learning from those people because they're
Need
not
the technology
interacting with
for
them
what?
on any kind of level. So the people who, well, all these people who are inventing these things say they're inventing it to solve problems, right? Well, so Satoshi said he wants a decentralized currency. He or she, whoever. We want a decentralized currency that governments can't control for the people. Well, what people are actually helping out? The only people who are actually making any decisions are all rich already, because they work at Google or they work at whatever Silicon Valley thing, and they have a really good paycheck, and they drive a Lambo, and in their free time they're doing this, or they work for whatever, and they have a nice house. Because like pretty much any base developer, when you look at them, they're all coming from money, and usually they're all white. So the people who are quote unquote solving the problems,
I don't think they're solving
kind of look like imperialists. Okay, so you just think it's just like doing stuff for fun?
That's just their
I don't
hobby.
think
like,
they're solving
this is
problems.
cool
I
and
don't think
geeky.
if
Okay.
they think they're solving problems.
They think they're solving
I don't think they're solving problems. I think that there's plenty of people in the the traditional financial services space that are solving problems with cross-border payments and remittances and those kind of issues, and doing a much better job of it than any of the speculative shitcoins. So I don't think real problems are being solved, and I don't think the problem of whatever, some hard to confiscate, I don't think Bitcoin solves that either. So I don't think these are like, I disagree completely with the characterization that this would be like some Silicon Valley wealthy people solving problems for the third world. I think it's.
I'm not saying they're actually solving. I'm saying they're putting it out that they're solving the problems. Like they're creating white papers saying these are the problems we're going to solve. This is how we're going to save humanity. This is how we're going to save poor people.
No, now you're just describing like every current shitcoin.
Yeah.
No shit.
Absolutely, I am.
No shit.
That's what I'm saying. This is bad.
This
is bad.
Your question is, what do I think would be best for the network?
Yeah.
I'm saying for all these people to fucking leave
I'm
the
being
network.
honest.
That's
like,
what would be best for the network.
Well, okay, so then why do you think cross-border payment and remittances are getting better? Do you think just because one day the bankers said, "Hey,
I actually
we should
do
make
think
this
that there's
easier"?
probably Not probably. I do think there's actually been a very important feedback loop between what's happened in cryptocurrency and what's occurring in traditional financial services. And we're starting to see that with, more fractional offerings of assets, not tokenized, but fractions with stocks and such. And I also think that it did push them to try and improve on remittances, cross-border payments, and I think they're going to try and do even more to make efficiencies. But I think a lot of that has been driven by the hype surrounding cryptocurrency and not potentially its threat, because I don't think it was ever a threat to traditional banking, and I still don't think it is, because it can't offer the same protections and customer support that's necessary for most people. That banks are known for.
That banks are known for. The customer support.
I don't know what your local bank's like. Mine's pretty good. I get pretty good.
I'm with a credit union and they're actually good, but I was like with Wells Fargo, I was at Bank of America.
But I do think cryptocurrencies has heavily influenced better changes in traditional financial services, without a doubt.
Well, before we finish up, I want to talk about your Twitter account.
Yeah,
I never want
your
to talk
Nano
about
account.
I want to talk about
Twitter Nano.
I want to talk about your Twitter account because I think it's an important account to follow. It's what I want to help promote. And you say you hope that noobs find the account and think it's, think your shit posts are funny and that they get some skeptical view from you. But I want to know what your hopes and dreams are for that account. And if you ever plan on starting something where you actually talk more seriously about these things, because that's one of the reasons I wanted you on this show, is not just to talk about your shit posting, but actually these beliefs that you have, these opinions. Do you ever plan to take it in that direction, or are your hopes and dreams that you really hope you don't have to have that Twitter account in the future?
I think that there's already enough people taking the space too seriously. And I do post serious things. I mostly post jokes, but the jokes have subtext, and I think that's pretty apparent to anyone paying attention.
So do you...
Short and sweet.
That's good for me. I am curious if an ideal future is one in which you don't actually have to have this Twitter account anymore because the Craig Wrights have all been exposed or whatever.
I'll pivot to something else. Yeah.
I figured that. I wonder what would be next for Karbonbased. You're going to go to Christian Twitter?
I'm not the one saying that, crypto's dead because Nano's taken over on this podcast. I don't think crypto is going away. I don't think the account has to go anywhere. I don't think it's gonna.
So you're gonna live on.
Let's hope, right?
Karbonbased.
With a K, yeah.
With a K.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
This episode's sponsored by Nano. Don't forget, the fastest coin around. Yeah. The only coin featured on this podcast.
We talked about what was it? Stellar,
Nano Light,
which was the other shit
it's
coin
even
that we
faster.
talked about?
I don't remember.
Nano Light.
I've
Nano.
It's fine. I don't think JJ owns a single Nano, and I barely own any.
I don't own any Nano at all.
Yeah.
It's become a meme because Mike in Space memes us constantly with his Nano jokes, and now we're gonna get it from you constantly. Thanks, Michael.
Hey, this is.
Hey, Whatever gets more eyeballs on our Twitter account.
Well, like I said, I do think that your account's an important one to follow. A lot of people do just think you're a troll, and I don't actually believe that. I think that sometimes you do take it a little bit far, but it's often funny when that happens. Who are your big?
I think when people come into contact with your account, they're coming into contact with something that got retweeted a lot because it was so extreme, and that's how I encountered you. And then once I followed you, and I realized, oh, the majority of your tweets aren't actually like that. It's just some of the ones that kind of go viral in the community.
Like and then also, like, I find it very interesting that you seem to make, like, quote unquote enemies, but they don't just block you. they like continue to follow you or something, which that's just something that happens on Twitter. It's like this weird, like, masochistic thing that everyone seems to do.
Hate reply.
Yeah. I mean, that must be kind of fun for you, right?
Experience, yes. It is fun.
Do you have any other outlet besides coming on podcasts
outlet?
like this and Twitter?
Do you
talk about crypto anywhere else? Do you?
So I give a weekly sermon about Nano, and it's many.
I was gonna say. I was gonna fucking say.
Do you have anything you want to show besides Nano?
I've never looked into that coin besides besides the psychos in my fucking replies, and
But in all seriousness, though, do you have any other outlet, or is Twitter your? That's it?
I have
and defundcrypto.com.
I do.
Okay.
No.
Do you talk about crypto in them?
No, I don't.
Is the question.
Okay. Do you want us to talk about them on the shows? We will get to drive our three viewers. Believe it or not,
I do. I do 99% of almost all my posting is from my phone. And in between that, I'm working, I'm doing errands, I'm hanging out with friends, I'm doing all sorts of other shit. And this is literally what I'm doing just as I'm walking down the street. So it's not so much as an outlet as just a distraction while I do everything else.
I see.
Yeah, this isn't an outlet.
There you have it. Carbon-based. Crypto is just my little distraction to entertain me. Got it.
That's good. You got people. Everyone's doing it for a different reason. So it's good.
That was all I wanted. All right, cool.
Yeah,
well, I guess we'll end it right there. Again, follow Joshua Davis at Karbonbased. That's Karbonbased with a K on Twitter. And yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on the show, bud.
That was awesome.
There's a lot more about Nano than I expected.
So we usually...
It's a lot more. Just kind of randomly went there. It wasn't my intention at all.
I don't know shit about this coin. I mean, we could have talked about like Bitcoin or something that I actually know fuck all about. Something with more than like 4 users that isn't still in beta.
Well, first of all, we didn't really talk about Nano. We just talked about technology, and we used Nano as an example. We were talking about new technologies. And we don't want to talk about Bitcoin because we know the flaws of Bitcoin already. And so our hypothetical was,
well, we could have
what if there's something better?
We could have also talked about
what if Nano actually is better?
Where all their DeFi crap is just rebuilding traditional finance services shit. We could have totally talked about that, where it's like, this is so innovative. Yeah. It's got a high APR. It's like, okay.
Well, that's literally all Lightning Network is just rebranding the bank system of middlemen. It's just
totally.
That's what I laugh about Lightning Network. It was like, okay, guys, you literally just created a middleman, which is what Bitcoin is supposed to get rid of.
And that's like, I mean, that's like crypto users saying that, in my opinion, that's like, oh, just wait till the banks start.
Hey, that's
crypto.
like
wait till
that. I was gonna say, money. I feel like that's a better. That's a better bullish metric than a lot of the crap I see thrown around about like active addresses and this or that is misleading metrics. A much better bull thesis would be, a million pomps out there trying to shill the shit to, everyone's retirement fund. Like that's actually a better
No, I agree.
thesis than
but
the upcoming halving.
For sure,
but,
yeah.
And but see, that's the thing that makes me question new all-time highs, because I'm like, gold. The supply of gold is dwindling rapidly, like of what we can actually mine, and it's still stayed roughly the same price for the last decade. It's been like a $600 swing for the last decade and hasn't gone anywhere. And I think that that's all kind of manipulation. And so that's what worries me is like, if the banks are super invested in it, I don't see them letting it go to, $1 million.
Well, I don't know, because if everybody's Vanguard or 401k account like has 1% Bitcoin in it, that's pretty strong case for.
But all those accounts have 1% of gold in it already. They all have.
And gold's worth a lot of money, but like,
not really. It's $1,600. That's what I mean. And like in a decade ago, it was $1,700. I sold an ounce of gold a decade ago for $1,700.
Yeah, people are still mining gold, right? I don't really know how gold works, so I don't.
I know how it works.
Gold to me is one of those things where it's like you're gonna. Oh yeah, but to me, like most people that I know who own gold don't actually own gold and keep it in a safe deposit box.
So let's talk about that instead of Nano.
Yeah, it's better technology. Have you heard of gold?
Me on the podcast. Nobody uses it. Right? No, nobody. Well, actually, I was saying it has. Gold's different in that not only do you have thousands of years of it as like a store of value and a precious metal, but it also has traditional applications, not both in the aesthetics of like jewelry, but also in as a conductor, especially in high-end audio equipment and medical devices.
Yeah, lots of technology.
Electronics.
Pretty much all
exactly.
iPhones have some.
So there's utility value in addition to the speculation with gold, which
Yeah.
People who speculate on gold or have it in their 401ks have it on paper, though. That to me is not.
I have friends that are gold bugs that have gold.
Some people have it. Yes, I mean I've got a little bit of silver and stuff, but like I don't know anybody who, like I said, has 1% of their retirement in gold and actually has the.
I mean, they hold on.
They don't have it in jewelry.
They don't have it in. They don't have 1% in it now, but after hyper goldization, what small amount of gold they have will suddenly become almost their entire net worth. Right.
Exactly.
Yes. And their cell phones will run on gold networks.
People will be groveling
Karbonbased
for just a little
gold
shaving.
chill.
and you'll be able to build satellite systems with parts from your local hardware store to transact gold.
That's going to be the new James Bond video game.
I'm not a
Chill.
gold bug either. I think it falls into the same stupid sound money shit. And there's, I don't think it's.
Yeah,
gold's not the answer.
Yeah, it's just it's bad money, and that's the reason why I got pushed out.
Who are some of the worst accounts on Twitter that you
I really
love
can't
to troll?
say anything bad about any of them.
Besides the Nano guys.
No, at this point,
Okay,
all they do is feed me material. I'm thankful for all of them.
Well, yeah, no, that's you're thankful for. So what are the ones you're most grateful for, that you love the most?
Who gives you the best material?
I mean, now that Craig Wright is no longer on Twitter, like he still shows up every once in a while. See, I actually believe he's Satoshi, because in my ideal world, like he did create Bitcoin, and that's just gonna piss everybody off, and that's gonna be a beautiful thing to watch.
Okay. No, I'm not calling anyone out on this podcast, other than my boy Nano. Follow Nano on Nano. Right. Right. That's Nano within. Does that? It doesn't have a silent G. That is my
The M is silent.
yeah.
All right, I need to go.